Welcome back to episode 2 of our look at infantry tier lists. It appears now that YouTube are putting adverts on before the videos. So you might as well like and subscribe, because if there's going to put adverts on it anyway, there might be some marginal benefit for me in that you're going to have to put up with adverts anyway, whether I want it or not. So let's get over 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours or whatever nuttiness they want. And yeah, that'd be cool. So like and subscribe, please, chaps. We're looking at the entry. We got the 336 plus 45-point infantry that are Halberdiers. You get these quite a lot of places actually. So you get them obviously in Empire. You get them in Witch Hunters. You get them in Araby as spearmen. You get them in Dogs of War as swordsmen. You get them in Kislev as axemen. You get them in Bretonnian as men at arms, but they don't count towards break. You get them in Beastmen as beast herd, but they have some ambushy rules. You get them in Skaven as clan rats, but they have a 5-point discount and some leadership, some command restrictions. They can only be ordered within 20 of anything. And finally, you get them in Nippon as Ashigari, or whatever the basic infantry troop are. So that's about 8 different lists that they're in. So definitely worth spending a little bit of time learning about them and getting the most out of them. First, let's look at their strengths. They're cheap. They're as cheap as it gets, really, without getting to the point where you kind of really don't want to be taking them, but you're kind of nobbler goblins, kind of, you know, you can't really expose them because they really are very, very weak. So they got 3 attacks, 3 hits, 6 up armor. Now, 6 up armor is not great at all. For every 6 wounds you take, every 6 hits you're taking 5 wounds. So you can't rely on the armor to do anything at all in fighting. The next strength is not really a strength of these, but it is a strength of all infantry, is that you can be defended and fortified. These guys really don't want to be fighting in the open unless it's on your terms and something that you want to do or have to do. They really need to be defended. And even defended when they come against very good infantry, they can lose, especially if they're fighting against bigger numbers, or the troops attacking you have got more bases in contact and more support stands. Because the defended reduces the amount of hits you're suffering by a third, but your armor is 6 up, so most of those hits are getting through because you're only saving 1 out of 6 hits. Even defended, there's no guarantee they're going to win. They're not quite as bad as zombies, but they are bad. They are bad. And so I tend to not fight in the open with these unless there is nothing else I can do. In column, though, and using Revolution and using the kind of additional skirmisher stands that you can get in Empire and a couple of the other lists, they can generally, when in column, last 2 rounds of combat in the open against most anything, because you're giving like 9 wounds per line, and if you've got a brigade of 4, that's 9, 9, 9, 9. That's 36 wounds you've got to take, which is a lot of wounds. You might lose a unit, you might lose more than 1 unit, but you shouldn't lose the whole brigade in 2 turns unless you're getting attacked by stuff in your flanks and rear as well as the front. Because in the front you should be able to take 2 rounds, and if you get the skirmishes in, that gives you 12 wounds per column, so that's like 48 wounds, which is a whole lot of wounds. So in Revolution, you can take 2 rounds of combat in the front and survive. In non-Revolution, these guys were an absolute nightmare because there were no 2 rounds of combat. There could be 20 rounds of combat, and these guys really would not survive in the open. So weaknesses. Firstly, we've already said about the poor armor. More than 83% of hits will go through, like 5 out of 6. In the open, they will be easily cut down by knights. Well, it doesn't really matter about the flank, if I'm being honest. If knights get into these, there's not going to be much left of these, is the facts. Same with heavy infantry. And because they're so cheap, you can take a lot of them, and you can build up your break point to kind of like 12, 13, wherever you want to go. But once they start getting into combat, they vanish very, very quickly, and they do count for break. So if you've got 12 units of these, and say in some magical mystery land you had 12 units of this infantry, Halberdiers, and you had 12 units of knights, well, it's a lot easier for my opponent to kill 12 units of Halberdiers and 12 units of knights. They don't fight the knights, they just kill the Halberdiers and win that way. But scenarios can help, obviously, even things up. So we've talked about a few strengths and talked about a few weaknesses. I like to add a little bit of a tactic element to these videos. So I'm going to talk about a way to maximize your damage output while keeping your fighting strength up. So what we got a situation here is we've got a unit of elven archers supported by a unit of swordsmen. I think they're just spearmen, but I don't like the spear tips. So I tend to use alternative miniatures like these swordsmen. And what we're going to do is we're going to have 4 of our units of Halberdiers in column, and we're going to make the first order to put them 20 centimeters away exactly. Like, you can have it slightly less than 20 centimeters, or like 19.5 centimeters, whatever, but don't go mad. Don't go like 18 centimeters or anything, or this won't work. So somewhere between 19 and 20 centimeters away, all in a line, offset, not lining dead against each other, we're offset, because that's important so we can keep our visibility up. So for this example, we're offset a little bit to the right. And then what we do is on our second order, or potentially if you're fighting undead and they don't have initiative and you fail an order, and then you can go in on initiative later, the following turn. So let's on this example, we've made an order on a 9, say our second order is on a 7. We make the 7. We send 1 unit in, the left-hand unit, and that can only go directly towards the nearest 1 because it can't really reach anything else. So it goes directly forward, can't go into support because there's no room. But what that allows us to do, because we have an obligation to maximize our frontage. So if we could go out left or right, it would have to be right, and that would block off a lane for our next column. So what we do is, because we're 20 centimeters away, we go in, but we maintain our column. So the second unit goes in, and it goes into the right of the first unit, and it goes again in column. The third unit goes in, and it goes in again to the right in column. And then the fourth unit can still see the corner, because that's why it's important to be offset. Or in this occasion, it's easy to be offset because we've got more miniatures than them. So we're going to be able to see a corner, and either be the left corner or the right corner, because our formation's wider than theirs. Our brigade's bigger than theirs. So we send the fourth one in, and that goes into the corner. And now what we've got is we get a little bit of stand and shoot, but we can resolve that. I mean, yes, we're giving them more stand and shoot than if we went in line, because they get to shoot the first guy 3 times. The second guy, he gets shot only once, and the third guy doesn't get shot at all. So we give them an extra shot. Big deal. That's not really that important in the big scheme of things. But now we've got 16 attacks against the archers and 4 support. And they've got 9 attacks back with 3 support. But what we're really looking to do is maximize our support, because after this turn, when we go in again, we can expand outwards. And I haven't taken any pictures of that, but that's something we'll do in another video going forward. But what is important is trying to maximize, when you go in, maximize A, the amount of stuff you're fighting with, B, the amount of support, and C, splitting out the attacks coming back so they're spread out above. We're actually spread out against our 3 units here, the 3 columns. So finally, just wrapping up, these fellas are tier B, I think. I'm tempted to give them C, but there is stuff that's far worse than these, and I've got to have some floor beneath these to cope with the rubbish that is in existence, unfortunately. And some of it has to be rubbish because that's the nature of the game. You know, I mean, a zombie has to be rubbish. I mean, it's cheap and it has its bonuses for being cheap. But I think tier B is where it falls. There's certainly no higher than that, and you certainly have to be careful when you use them. And I certainly don't often at all build lists with more than the minimum, unless you're playing like an Empire list, I will say. An Empire or an Araby or something like that, something vanilla-y, human-y. I certainly wouldn't be taking more than 4 units of Halberdiers. Yeah, they don't do it for me. I mean, clan rats, you can take millions of those because you need millions of those and you get a discount. But for me, I take the minimum I can get away with, and I use them defensively. Okay. So anyway, if you like this, put a comment below, and a little thumbs up or something. And I'll try and record another one next week.